how did you become close to or get to know Mike Bloomberg?
It's actually a funny story. So back in 1994, I was sitting in the stands of the World Cup semifinal game out at the Meadowlands in New Jersey. It was Italy versus Bulgaria. A friend literally dragged me to the game. I didn't want to go. It was like 100 degrees. We took the bus. It took forever. But I walked into the stadium that day, and I thought it was the most amazing sporting event I had ever seen. Everyone was painted in Bulgarian and Italian colors. You couldn't sit down. So I was standing there through the match thinking to myself, you could play this game in New York with any two countries in the world, and it would feel exactly the same. And then I started thinking about the Olympics, which I'd always been a fan of, and saying, why has the most international city in the world never hosted the most international event? And I left the stadium that day with this vague notion that New York ought to host the Olympics. And so I built a plan with advisors about how New York could host the Olympics. And eventually I showed it to Mike Bloomberg. When he was running the company, he wasn't contemplating running for mayor. He gave some money, he went on the board. And then when he shockingly won to be mayor, he asked me to join him in City Hall.
And what did you do at City Hall for Mike Bloomberg and the city?
So I was responsible for everything economic and financial. So my title was Deputy Mayor for Economic Development and Rebuilding. First task was rebuilding the World Trade Center site, but then we really rethought the future of New York physically and financially by having a 5-borough economic development strategy.
Now, after serving as Deputy Mayor of New York for development and other projects dealing with economic development, you left after how many years?
I was there for 6 years, and then Mike, one day, Mike Bloomberg, we sat in this bullpen in City Hall. It was an open space, and I sat basically behind him. One day, he wheeled around, and he said, what would you think about going over and running Bloomberg? And I said to him, what are you talking about? In the 6 years that we have sat here together, we have discussed the company for 1 hour total. And he said, no, I think you'd be really good. I'd never run a big company before. I didn't know anything about Bloomberg. When I was in private equity, I was a light user of Bloomberg. I knew one person at the company, and he said, no, I think you'd be really good. So I said, okay, I'll think about it. So I came back the next day, said, okay, I'm gonna do it. But I'm not gonna do it for the same salary I was getting paid in government, which was $1. And I started about 6 weeks later. And after it was announced publicly that I was gonna go run Bloomberg, I said to Mike, okay, I'm doing it. What do you want me to do? He said, I don't know. I haven't been there for 6 years. You go figure it out. And I did.
So how many years did you run Bloomberg?
7.
7 years, and the company grew pretty nicely during that period of time?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I got there, the financial crisis happened. But we grew from, I think, 5.4 billion in revenues to 9 in the 7 years that I was there.